white flag for A.J. Foyt. He had 2 laps to go before, but now all he has to do is negotiate each of these 4 turns one more time, and it's all over. A.J. Foyt will win his 3rd Indianapolis 500, a great comeback after last year's disappointing season for him.
Well, he drove a great race. He just stayed in there all day long, grit his teeth, and there's an accident in the front straightaway.
2, 3, 4 cars. Where's Foyt? I don't know whether he can get through or not.
Hitting the wall, bouncing back across the straightaway.
Foyt's only got a couple hundred yards to go, but where is he? There he is.
He's going to get through.
A.J. Foyt will win the Indianapolis 500 in an incredible, thrilling finish.
2 weeks later, Foyt, the man from Houston, was racing in Europe's great 24 Hours of Le Mans for the first time. Racing and winning. Here we're congratulating him with teammate Dan Gurney. It was a brand new world for A.J. Instead of the milk bottle at Indy, it was champagne on the victory stand in France.
That achievement of A.J.'s in winning the double of Indy and Le Mans falls into the category of ultimate achievements in sport, in that he was not only the first person to do it, he to this day is the only person to do it. And we have a couple of other things that fall into that category we're going to show you in a moment. One of them took place on one of our more memorable events. That was the 1962 World Figure Skating Championships in Prague, Czechoslovakia. It was memorable for a number of reasons, but a little thing stands out in my memory. There was a bartender in the old Alcron Hotel where we stayed named Charlie. He said, please call me Charlie. It's Carlos, but call me Charlie. I've been here for so many years, and I know so many Westerners, so many Americans. And he did. He told us stories about famous Americans, about royalty who had stayed at the hotel in the old days before the communists took over. Fascinating man, to the point that Roone Arledge, who was personally producing the show, and I convinced him that he should keep the bar open later each night, just to tell us stories. And he was such a nice fellow, he was also interested in hearing everything that we had to say. Well, we hadn't been back in the States a month when Newsweek magazine did a piece on Czechoslovakia being the most tightly controlled of all the Soviet satellites, and in passing it mentioned the old Alcron Hotel, where it said, even the bartender, one Charlie, is a known government agent.
The most memorable moment of Prague was the Triple Lutz, performed by Canada's Don Jackson. Dick Button was with us.
He is going to open his program with a triple Lutz jump. 3 revolutions from a Lutz position. The first ever done in world competition. Let's see how he does it. He has planned it. Let's see what happens. Here it comes. A beautiful triple Lutz. It's fantastic.
Don Jackson's Triple Lutz was a one-time only performance. Neither he nor anyone else has achieved it since that night. Unexpected events often change our schedule for us on Wide World, like last autumn, when we had to make room for coverage of the pole vault event in an obscure dual meet in Greece. Chris Papanikolaou, a Greek citizen who learned his specialty at San Jose State College, became the first and only man ever to clear 18 feet in the pole vault. Greece had seldom seen such jubilation since that runner arrived from the fields of Marathon long centuries ago. Chris Papanikolaou. Just last Saturday, we again had a quick schedule change. The U.S. table tennis team, the first American delegation to see the Great Wall of China since 1949, appeared with film of their visit by satellite from a studio in Tokyo, their first live appearance on American television after emerging from communist China. Live satellite coverage should be even more prevalent as Wide World moves into its second decade.
30, 40.
One time only in Wide World's lifetime has an American won the men's singles at Wimbledon, England. That's Chuck McKinley in the far court. His opponent, Fred Stolle of Australia. And that was it. McKinley had won on the hallowed courts at Wimbledon. It was 1963, and he was the first American since '55, when Tony Trabert did it, to win the title. And this young lady is the only American, male or female, to win a World Championship gymnastics medal. Her name, Kathy Rigby, 4 feet 10 inches tall, 88 pounds. The event, the balance beam, in Yugoslavia last fall.
An upright scale showing great flexibility. A difficult one-arm walkover. A slight error there, that may cause a 1 to 2/10 deduction. But this is the only error so far in the routine. And a full twisting front somersault. A great exercise.
Kathy Grigby of the United States has made her effort. She's the first performer. She'll become the temporary leader, but the important thing is how high that mark is.
Well, the marks were good enough for a silver medal, marking a one-time only performance for little Kathy Rigby.
Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays the diehard from the swift completion of its appointed starts. The Sears diehard, with extra power to start your car when most batteries won't. Sold only at Sears.
You know how hair looks after shampooing? Well, this Protein 29 hair groom puts back the control that shampooing takes out. You know what? It works. You just put it on your hair while it's wet, then comb. Takes out tangles, makes combing easier. And it grooms not just on top, but way down. So when your hair dries, it's under control. Protein 29 hair groom. You know, this stuff is really different from all those other hairsprays.
The heroes of sport come in all shapes, sizes, colors, sexes, and nationalities, and in all age groups. Who could predict a scene like this? Hundreds of thousands of Englishmen swarming around the waterfront in Plymouth to welcome home old Francis Chichester, a man in his 60s who had just sailed around the world alone. A brave, jaunty old man.
George Clogg, Australian Broadcasting Commission. What did you think about when you went round the Horn in those terrifying minutes?
I thought it was distinctly overcrowded. There was an aeroplane there and a ship, you know. It's one place where you feel you could have a little soliloquy, uninterrupted, you think would be off Cape Horn. Look here, you're talking to somebody who's been alone for 4 months. Like somebody you bring up from a cave, you know, who's been stuck down there for 4 months and hasn't seen anybody on there. So, and you wouldn't expect me to be the slightest bit sort of normal or sane, you see.
In view of the fact that you look so well, could you do it again?
Well, not for a week.
Contrast now the triumph of aged determination with the precocious talent of a near child. At age 14, California's Debbie Meyer was named the outstanding female athlete of the world by the press of the Soviet Union. She confirmed that judgment by winning 3 gold medals in the Olympics and in many performances on Wide World like this one.
We have Debbie Meyer, who most certainly will crack her pending world mark. Here she comes now with less than 25 meters to go. There's the clock. 4:26.7 is the time she has to beat. Linda Gustafson moving up just a little bit on Pam Cruz. In the battle for second and third, Debbie touches at 4:24.4 unofficially. Little wonder that this young lady is considered to be the greatest woman freestyler of all time.
Debbie Meyer, who one day in the next few years must face the problem of athletic retirement, probably before the age of 21. Careers, though, sometimes end not by choice, but by chance. Was there ever a man more alive, more in love with the triumph of talent, determination, and personal discipline than Vince Lombardi? He was professional football's greatest coach at the peak of his powers as he took over the Washington Redskins.
I want to say that I'm very, very happy that I am back. I knew I missed football, but I don't think I realized how much I missed it until I got back into it this year.
What was it you told me when you took the job? I was tired of being a myth?
That's right. I wanted to dispel that, Howard, if I could. I don't feel I'm a myth. I don't feel I'm any, that I'm any different than anybody else, really. So maybe I will dispel it.
Now, a lot of the press have been here already, of course, because of your past renown. And they're beginning to talk all over again and write all over again about the martinet and the dictator and the man who, in truth, can be a heel, cruel, brutal, and so on. You chuckled as I said it, but you know that this kind of criticism exists.
I know it does, Howard, and I thought that was one of the reasons I think that caused my my retirement for a year, really, was that kind of talk, really. I think that had a great deal to do with it. But it's back again, and I just don't understand why, but I'm not going to let it bother me this time, really. Because there's very little truth in it. I would say, if any truth in it, I think if you speak to anybody, any of the players, I think they'll say that they'll dispel that, I think, almost immediately.
But why do you hate Lombardi?
I don't hate Lombardi. I love it.
Sam Huff loved the flat-out honesty of Lombardi, his directness, whether laughing or chewing out a lazy player. In a day of chilly cynicism, one had to admire a man who said what he thought, lived what he believed, and died his untimely death in courageous dignity. Now, Len Dawson is the picture of the modern businessman-athlete, the idol of Kansas City. But after his team won the 1970 Super Bowl game, he discussed the unsubstantiated charges of associating with gamblers that had been made about him. His staunchest defense came from his swinging football rival, Broadway Joe Namath.
Joe, have you been subpoenaed to appear before a grand jury?
No, I haven't, and
have you,
I
Leonard?
don't really anticipate
No, I
being
haven't.
subpoenaed.
No
But
word
still,
of any kind.
Right, but still, guilt by implication is there. You know, just because our name is there, already there's going to be some people in this country that say, well, Namath, Dawson, and whoever it is, they've been gambling. Just because someone has the audacity to put our names on the news for that, and we haven't even done a thing. Nothing's even been mentioned to us. Don't know why, but yet they put our names there.
It'll live with you for a while.
It'll live with us. It'll live with our families. It'll live with his family more. I mean, I'm by myself. You know, I have my parents. You know, they understand things. But he has people he has to worry about.
On another occasion, ABC's Howard Cosell asked his probing questions of baseball player Curt Flood. Flood was challenging the sports reserve clause, a legal move that still continues and may reach the United States Supreme Court. He had been telling Howard that no matter how you figured it, a baseball player of whatever color was a slave to the club owners.
It's been said and it's been written, Kurt, that you're a man who makes $90,000 a year, which isn't exactly slave wages. What's your retort to that?
Well, Howard, a well-paid slave is nonetheless a slave.
Well, if athletes are in fact well-paid slaves, the best paid of them all is reputed to be a Brazilian soccer player who is known by the single name Pelé. He's number, and the people of Paris shouted back, "Viva Pelé!"
Excitement and action return to millions of bowling fans across the nation again this winter, as the Professional Bowlers Tour begins its 11th consecutive season on ABC television. Starting Saturday, January 8th, the best bowlers in the world will be competing for over $800,000 in prize money during 13 different tournaments. And ABC Sports will be covering these pro bowlers live and in color each Saturday afternoon as they move across the nation, beginning with the United States Open at Madison Square Garden in New York and concluding with the Tournament of Champions at Akron, Ohio. That's the Professional Bowlers Tour, live and in color, returning for the 11th consecutive season on Saturday, January 8th, 2:30 Eastern and 1:30 Central Time on the ABC television network.
There have been many off-camera moments that we've wished we could share with you on Wide World. For example, last June, I sat in a beautiful restaurant at a village called Louet, near Le Mans, France, with Phil Hill, three-time winner of the grueling 24-hour race of Le Mans, and another man. We were sharing a bottle of Chateau Haut-Briand 1937, which, believe me, by all odds, was the most delicious wine I've ever tasted. In fact, that alone would have made the evening. But just as we were finishing the wine, a door opened and in walked a group of very elegant Europeans, and one step behind the rest of the group, men and women, was the suavest of them all, the boulevardier from Belgium, Olivier Gendebien, the man who had shared the wheel with Phil Hill on all three of those victories on the circuit at Le Mans. They hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, and suddenly Gendebien saw Phil, and he said, "Phil, you old son of a gun." And these two great veterans of the race course embraced. It was quite a moment, and I was particularly glad that the third man in our group that night was a romanticist like myself, Doug Wilson by name, a producer on Wide World of Sports, and as you're now going to find out, also a composer and a singer.
Not long ago, in a small village in the French Alps, a man said that we at ABC Sports continually seem to be beginning something. With that thought in mind, on the occasion now of the 10th anniversary of ABC's Wide World of Sports, this song is presented. I didn't write it for the show, really. It was written as a gift, dedicated to two men, the perceptive pioneer and innovator of television sport, Roone Arledge, and to the irascible poet, reporter of sport, Jim McKay. The song is called The Wide World. 10 years ago I boarded a plane to search in the world of sport, to see how men live side by side in conflict of every sort. I traveled to the playing fields of England's sporting clime and watched men in an Irish hurling battle. And over the wide, wide world, over the wide, wide world, I think I've seen a plan. Men can shake hands and understand. I've passed through time zones endlessly to see men east and west do their thing incessantly, trying to be the best. I've seen the slashing, competitive clashing in sport of every kind. And when it's done, men touch and walk together over the wide, wide world, over the wide, wide world. I think I've seen a plan. Men can shake hands and understand. I've watched them challenge mountainsides to get there before another. At times in teams go head to head, victoriously crushing the other. I've watched them try to reach beyond the boundaries of speed and overcome their inborn limitations. But over the wide, wide world, over the wide, wide world, I think I've seen a plan. Men can shake hands and understand. The world of sport is made of men who act in human fashion, racing after what they want, committed to their passion. I wonder if in other worlds this pattern will prevail, and when it's done, will all men walk together over the wide, wide world, over the wide, wide world. I think I've seen a plan. Men can shake hands and understand.
Here is Bill Toomey, running in the footsteps of Jim Thorpe and Rafer Johnson and Bob Mathias, running in the cold and the dark of Mexico City, in the breathless air, winning the decathlon.
That was the greatest moment of my life, and because of what this priceless experience meant to me, I'd like to ask you to help give our finest athletes a chance to compete in the 1972 Olympic Games in Munich, Germany. You can take part in America's Olympic effort by sending a $5 contribution to Olympic House, Box BA, 57 Park Avenue, New York, New York, zip code 10016. In return, you'll receive a handsome embroidered Olympic cloth emblem. And you can watch the Olympics on ABC Sports and undoubtedly see more than any spectator there with coverage planned for 3.5 hours in prime time on weeknights and up to 6 hours a day on weekends. Be a member of the 1972 United States Olympic team.
Federal agents try to foil a payroll heist tomorrow night on the FBI.
Meet the Stampers of Oregon. Paul Newman, Henry Fonda, Lee Remick, Michael Saracen, Richard Jekyll.
Now playing Pacific Cinerama Dome in Hollywood.
Want a raise? More to spend on a vacation, maybe. Now that the excise tax is gone, this is the perfect time to buy a Datsun, a true economy car. Save when you buy it, even more when you drive it. This Datsun 1200 sedan sells for under $2,000 with lots of extras at no extra cost. White walls, vinyl upholstery, front disc brakes, and more. See your Datsun dealer and ask him for a raise. Driving a Datsun is a sure way to raise your standard of living.
Tonight, Jeff Chandler stars in the inspiring dramatization, A Story of David.
Use it to fight the Lord's battle, David, remembering always that you are his chosen one. Use it only for good. Seek his will in all things.
See A Story of David on Channel 7's Saturday night movie at 11:30. Here on Channel 7, KABC-TV, Los Angeles.
The near lane, Don Prudhomme. The far lane, Jim Nichols. They are both staged. Nichols off first. Prudhomme. Oh, my God. Jim Nichols' car. Jim Nichols' car has literally been sawed in half. The front end of it has skidded all the way down to the run-out area. Let's go down there. Prudhomme braking heavily, his parachute behind him. But Nichols' car, cut in half, there is the driver's cage. It caromed at least 350 feet down the track and bounced over into the grass.
Not knowing that Nichols was only slightly injured, Prudhomme, a tough racing man, was emotionally drained by the experience.
You're all right. I think I'm good. Oh my God, I seen that car go by me. I couldn't believe it. There was no back section on it or nothing.
As you've just seen, the human aspect has always been of tremendous interest to us on Wide World. Whether a person's name is a household word or not, the mere fact that they're a human being reacting to a human situation is always of tremendous interest. Which is not to say that we have avoided showing you the major personalities of the world. You've already seen Nikita Khrushchev and Averill Harriman sitting together at one of our events. Prince Philip of England has appeared as an athlete, a polo player competing for the Queen's Cup. And his wife, the Queen, we've seen on quite a number of occasions as a spectator at different events. The late Robert F. Kennedy was a participant in Wide World, describing his ascent of Mount Kennedy in memory of his brother. Princess Grace, formerly Grace Kelly of the movies, and her husband, Prince Renier of Monaco, have appeared each time we've done the Grand Prix of Monaco. And a Prince of Liechtenstein in a 40-year-old crash helmet is a regular participant in the Cresta Run at St. Switzerland. Still, naturally, most of the big names that we've seen have been big names in sports, few of them as big as that of Arnold Palmer. I remember him winning the British Open and setting a record that still stands at Troon, Scotland.
The special public personality traits that have made Palmer one of the great sports idols of his time were never more evident than they were on that day. The Scots, a people considered taciturn and suspicious by some, followed his triumphal walk across the turf of Troon like an ancient Roman crowd acclaiming Caesar in victory. They strained to hear his words, to touch his clothes, and his caddy, young Tip Anderson, became a national figure. Palmer didn't disappoint them. With determined tread and high good humor, he reached the final green. And you almost knew what he would do. That final long putt would charge the cup, hesitate, then drop in. It's never been satisfactorily explained, but when Palmer wins, the man in the crowd feels that he wins too. And when Palmer loses, the man feels that the gods of sport have conspired against them both. But at Troon, it was all victory and joy.
I've had a chance to work on all sides of the fence with ABC, both being interviewed as coach of the U.S. ski team, working as a consultant, and now as a commentator. And some of those moments were had a lot of interesting and colorful aspects to them. I can remember once, for instance, storming into a producer's truck in Germany and really being upset because more U.S. ski team members weren't going to appear on television for that particular show. I was very politely informed, all you have to do, my friend, is win.
Winning for American ski racers didn't come easily during these years, and one large reason was the presence of this man, a smiling, glamorous young Frenchman named Jean-Claude Keely. This race was at the beginning of the Keely legend. Vail, Colorado in 1965, Jean-Claude winning the giant slalom with a golf cap rakishly turned backwards on his head. After that, our cameras followed him around the skiing world, to Europe, and even to South America. The World Championships of the sport were held in Portillo, Chile in 1966, and it was there that Keely first served notice that he might in fact win all 3 gold medals in the Grenoble Olympics. He did it by winning the downhill race here, an event that had always been considered his weakest till then. This slow motion unmistakably Keely. Then on to victory at Portillo, and on he went to total triumph. Even more than his Olympic triumph, somehow we have always remembered this race, a slalom at Vail in 1967, as the essence of the Keely racing charm. His style was reckless in appearance, flawless in fact. The pink shirt he wore summed up his French flair for handsome drama. The day was beautiful, white snow, bright sun, blue sky, a day to remember, Keely at his best.
You said you wanted to uncomplicate your life, remember? Start now with the Schick injector system. We designed it for better balance so it's more maneuverable, easier to control, because we believe a good, clean shave should be a simple, natural act. Schick injector system. Simplify.
Ed? Hey, Bernie! Look, my battery's dead, and I was wondering if you could give me a jump. Oh, sure, I understand.
And my battery went dead and...
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
The Sears Die Hard. It's a great deal more dependable than some of your very best friends.
I understand.
The Die Hard, sold only at Sears.
There was a hot day in Daytona Beach that I'll remember for a long time. A southern driver from the hill country of North Carolina who drove like hill country people and spoke like hill country people. He had a tremendous accent, and he had some words that none of us knew what they meant either. And I was asking him with my headset on about the chances of he and his car in the race. And he replied something like this: well, I feel right smart. The car's running right smart, and if the tires hold up, why, we should do pretty good. And just then in my earpiece from the bus came the word from the associate director: Chris, it'll be great with English subtitles.
Well, Chris didn't mean this man.
Well, there's been a lot of water under the bridge in the last 10 years, and I guess 10 years ago I was in the turkey business, I guess, not doing very well and trying to do a little logging on the side, and actually planning to get married a few days away. And it's been a long 10 years, really my first introduction to going out of the racetrack, on a racetrack, and the first introduction to the wide world of sports, too.
Well, their introduction to Wide World of Sports has been kind of a shocking experience for a number of people besides Cale. Expert commentators, for example. Think what a difficult thing it is to have been a great athlete and then suddenly, because you're a great athlete, have to be a television commentator. It's an entirely different thing. I remember one of them, for example, a great swimming champion who was going to work with us as a commentator, and she didn't mind too much the idea of talking over the swimming, but the idea of interviews terrified her. She said, I don't know what to ask them. What shall I ask the swimmers? And we said, well, there's a lot of things you could ask them. For example, if you run out of things to ask them about, just say, you know, do you have any hobbies or things you do besides swimming? I said, that's a good one, that's good, okay. Well, the first race, as it happened, that she was working on turned out to be a world record. And after the girl said it, she climbed out of the pool and everyone swarmed her over. And even her fellow competitors were in tears or laughter or some emotional display. And she herself was almost incoherent with tears and joy. And at this point, our new commentator went over and said, do you have any hobbies or anything?
Another athlete turned commentator is Phil Hill. Here, the former world champion chases the late Bruce McLaren through the streets of Monte Carlo, cutting a 20-second deficit with 10 laps to go to 1.3 seconds at the finish. And afterwards, what did the world champion have to say about his duel with Jack Brabham early in the race?
I'd about had it with Brabham. That about wore me out.
That was a tremendous duel.
He finally went into the damn weeds up at the casino.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things that used to really bother me, and I think it still does, is having to interview my colleagues or ex-colleagues, or at least my peers in automobile racing. And I had a terrible time trying to figure out exactly what it was, but it's really not too complicated when you think about it. And that is that all of a sudden, here I was on the other side of the coin. I used to despise the interviewers. And when Christy Conamecki used to come up to me when I was really right in the middle of something, and he'd say, "What's it like out there, Phil?" I could have murdered him. I know that sounds a little bit strong, and it probably is, but at any rate, when I suddenly had to do the same thing to Graham Hill or Jack Brabham or someone like that, it ruined it for me, because all of a sudden here I was in the same position of the person that I was disliking so strongly in other times.
We've had some fascinating times with Phil. He was at the wheel the only time Wide World ever entered an event itself. I was the navigator when we drove a 1904 Rio car in the London to Brighton run for veteran automobiles. It was a day of trauma with many breakdowns, and finally, we neared the end. But alas, just before the finish, Emmy broke down, could go no further under her own steam. So with the undaunted courage and resourcefulness of the true sportsman, I pushed her proudly toward the line to receive the flag. The unexpected, of course, is a key ingredient of any sporting event. But sometimes, the unexpected happening leads to something else even less predictable. Here, for example, we were afraid that tragedy had occurred. The Czech bobsled in this year's World Championships in Italy turning over, trapping the driver inside and dragging the brakeman by his foothold. Slowly, though, ever so slowly it seemed, tragedy turned into humor. The Czechs couldn't or didn't bail out. Watch as they fight their way right side up again and then back into the sled and on their way. Sometimes the line between disaster and humor is a very fine one in sports. Herewith, a few illustrations.
Well, I'm heading out. Don't know exactly where I'll be going, but I have a hunch the fishing's going to be great. Kurt Gowdy. The outdoors is my kind of excitement, and it'll be yours too on this year's American Sportsman. You'll see Jimmy Dean riding to the wilds of New Mexico to dart and tag a mountain lion. How about white wing hunting with Bing Crosby and Phil Harris? Light tackle fishing with Ted Williams. A sage grouse shoot with Dale Robertson and Cale Yarbrough. Rooster fishing with Artie Johnson, and looking for the big daddy of Bahamian angling, a great blue marlin with Cameron Mitchell. Your kind of excitement, then watch for the American Sportsman on Sunday afternoons right here on ABC.
We'll get back to our 10th anniversary program in just a minute. But first, another reminder that we'll be presenting a special edition of ABC's Wide World of Sports next Friday, December 31st. That's the afternoon of New Year's Eve, in order that we may bring you the East-West Shrine football game from San Francisco. Now, this special live telecast will begin at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, and it'll feature the new NCAA rushing champion, Ed Marinaro of Cornell, along with the new NCAA passing champion, John Reeves of Florida. Michigan State's exciting record breaker, Eric the Flea Allen, will also be in that ball game. So be sure to join us for the East-West Shrine football game next Friday afternoon at 4 Eastern Time here on ABC. Well, in case you have wondered if we ever face problems in televising sports events, well,
You never know what may come up, really. In Verbier, Switzerland, the Pro Skiing Championships had to be moved suddenly from one mountain to another because of avalanche danger. Now, this meant a quick move for our cameras and also a 100-yard climb to the starting gate for finalists Bill Kidd and Egon Zimmerman.
The crowd at Verbier is standing by for race number 13. An unbelievable situation here in the World Professional Alpine Skiing Championships. This is dual giant slalom, two men racing at one time if you just joined us. Egon Zimmerman of Austria going against Billy Kidd of the United States. Kidd has the advantage now, and there he is in the starting gate for the left-hand course. One man must win 2 races in a row. Nobody's been able to do it in 12 races. They've alternated victories. Here's Egon Zimmerman. He must win this one to even things again, or to stay in competition. Listening for the countdown. Nobody's won on the left-hand course. That's where Kidd is now. Okay, here they go. It's just about even now, but it's a little lower down. And uh-oh, Egon's out. Billy Kidd has only to stand up to win this great match. Egon Zimmerman has fallen. Billy Kidd has only to make it down from here on, and look how careful he is. The longest contest in ski racing history is about to end. Billy Kidd skiing the course out. That's all he has to do after Zimmerman fell. It took them 13 races down this mountain. Aching legs, exhausted wind. But it's all over now. Billy Kidd has won $4,000 first prize in the World Professional Giant Slalom Championship.
I can remember in 1960 going to the Junior National Ski Championships out west, and I was going through what was then Idlewild Airport in New York, and I had skis on my shoulder, and people came up to me and asked me what they were. They'd never seen them before. Skiing's really changed a lot since then. I think a great deal to do with television. People now come up to me and recognize me and say, "Can I have your autograph, Mr. Keeley?"
Well, Bill Kidd, by any other name, would ski as well. The most exciting kind of telecast for us is to send something back to the United States by satellite. As here, the 1967 World Figure Skating Championships, outdoors in Vienna. The couple you're watching were the king and queen of the pairs division, Oleg and Lyudmila Protopopov of the Soviet Union, communist royalty of sport.
Those satellite telecasts provide certain special problems of their own. The year after we did the World Figure Skating from Vienna, for example, we were doing the same event from Geneva, Switzerland. And the way we did it was this. The event had actually been concluded for a couple of hours, and we were beaming it by satellite from our mobile unit parked outside the now empty big arena in Geneva. The reason for that was so it would come into the States at the right time for Wide World of Sports. Well, everything was going along swimmingly until fairly late in the telecast. We're standing there, and suddenly New York said, "What happened? What happened?" on the telephone. We said, "Why? What happened to you?" They said, "Suddenly we're getting an old German movie." Well, the word, of course, was, "Jim, get back inside and get on camera and say something." So I ran back inside the arena, another chap and I, and when we ran in there to this darkened arena, there were just a couple of lights left on, and sitting at our monitor, kind of watching the show, probably wondering what it was the night watchman with his big German Shepherd dog, the only people there. And I said, "Out, out," and pidgin German or French, whatever I could think of, indicated to him I had to get in there. I got in there, stood in front of the camera, they turned on the lights, and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a problem, this and that and the other thing." Did this for about 45 seconds, at which point they got the correct picture back, and I stopped and was ready to leave. And then the watchman turned to me and indicated in German that he would like to know what in the world we were doing. And I tried to explain to him in French that we were actually beaming this by satellite to the United States and the 20 million people were watching, at which point a beatific smile spread over his face, and he said, "Ah, wunderbar."
This is the new Mercury Marquis, maybe the best riding car in the world. To find out, we put it up against the toughest competition around, with the toughest jury of experts we could find, 50 professional chauffeurs. They compared Mercury's ride, blindfolded, to a $34,000 European limousine with comparable mileage. Compared them for smoothness, for steadiness, for quiet, over the same course, at about the same speeds and driving conditions. The result, 36 out of 50 chauffeurs rated Mercury's ride superior overall to the $34,000 limousine. Certified by the Nationwide Consumer Testing Institute.
It's hard to believe, it really is.
In one word, I think, would probably, the Mercury is smooth.
Much better ride, and it was quieter also.
Beautiful. I mean, it's just riding on air. It's a smoother ride. There's no question about it.
I was definitely riding in the better car when I was riding in the Mercury.
Sometimes a blindfold can open your eyes.
Better ideas make better cars.
At the sign of the cat.
Understandably, I think, the personality I most remember in the 10-year history of Wide World of Sports, the events I most remember in the 10-year history of the show, involved Muhammad Ali. We began with Muhammad back in 1964. He was Cassius Clay then, the scene, the Miami Beach Convention Hall. He was to fight for the first time the late Charles Sonny Liston. Remember the incredible circumstances of the weigh-in. The wild scene put on by Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson at his side, none of us knowing whether he was behaving in this manner from a frenzy of fear or whether he was indeed trying to psych out the adversary Liston. In any event, the blood pressure was so high that it seemed to be a medical problem. But then, oddly, that evening before he entered the ring, there he was, utterly composed at ringside, watching his brother in a preliminary fight. We picked him up next in May of 1965, St. Dominic's Arena, Lewiston, Maine. A blot forever, perhaps, in the escutcheon of boxing, which has had so many. But the invisible punch, the long count, the referee, former heavyweight champion Jersey Joe Walcott, utterly bewildered, the count going apparently to 14. Some made it as high as 16, some made it as high as 20 and 22. And the fight really being stopped by little Matt Fleischer at ringside, the ancient editor and publisher of Ring magazine. And then the Bates College students pouring down to ringside shouting, "Fix, fix, fix." After that, it was the torment of Floyd Patterson. And some of you may remember Ali admitted on Wide World that he carried Patterson. After that, he said, "I got nothing against them Viet Cong," so he couldn't fight Ernie Terrell in this country, and he had to go up to beat George Chuvalo in Toronto. From there, we went with Ali to England. May of 1966, the second bout against Henry Cooper. August of 1966 against Brian London. September of 1966 in Frankfurt, West Germany, the troubled style of the southpaw, Carl Mildenberger. Troubled because it so troubled Ali, one of his poorer performances. Then it was back to the United States. Cleveland Williams in Houston, Texas, again in 66. 67, Ernie Terrell. Then up to New York for Zora Foley in Madison Square Garden. After that, apparently no one left to fight, except for an idea. Perhaps the strongest man in all of sport, Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. And so here, on Wide World, a never-to-be-forgotten scene, the tale of the potential tape. What is the reach, Angie?
He's the if he wants to agitate you into a fight, I'll get you.
7 feet.
That's right, it's 91, 92 inches.
All right, now measure the champ, will you?
And then measure you.
Would you just back off and let them come into camera?
You're the one getting this man in trouble.
May we have your reach, please, champ?
Reach don't mean nothing. Terrell had a reach, too. Terrell had a bad jab when the fight started. You couldn't find it.
Wait a minute, Angie.
This has been Linden to me, a world champion and a basketball player.
He's 78 inches and a half, 79.
And so the edge is about a foot. Gentlemen, I must
and
break
cut
it.
that beard off because I'm not fighting Billy Goat. I want to give you a target. I want to give you a target.
Well, Ali never did get to fight that Billy Goat. No, something else happened. April 28, 1967. Federal Customs Building, Houston, Texas. The refusal to take the step forward. The rejection of military conscription. The action moments later by the New York Boxing Commissioner, stripping him of his title, his license to fight, no place to go. A new champion, ostensibly to be determined. Well, there was the WBA tournament, won in the ultimate by Jimmy Ellis, Ali's old sparring partner, now presumably the heavyweight champion of the world. Not really so. While Ali's career was taking place, another one was developing. A young man named Joe Frazier represented this country in the Olympic Games, became the Olympic champion, but in an odd way, because when he fought for the American championship as an amateur and the right to represent this country, he lost to a young man named Buster Mathis. He lost to Buster, but Buster was injured, and that's how Frazier got his chance. When Frazier came back to America after winning the gold medal in the Olympics, he turned professional. He beat one after another. Nobody could stop him. The left hook spoke for itself against every opponent. And then he was declared the champion of the world by New York State. A dichotomy. Which was the champion, Ellis or Frazier? They finally met in New York's Madison Square Garden. You saw it on Wide World of Sports.
Frazier giving it to him and giving it to him. A right there. A left that missed. Another right that connected. Down goes Ellis. Down goes Ellis. He is beaten. Jimmy Ellis is going to try to get up. He is worn to a frazzle. He is a game young man. He is up. He got them past the mandatory 8 count. He was up at 9. Frazier is strong. There are, as you can see, just seconds left. Frazier again with the left. Ellis standing there. Oh, a tremendous left hook, and he cannot be saved by the bell. He cannot be saved by the bell. This fight may be over. Ellis, with tremendous courage, is up. He is up, and the fight continues. A tremendous display of courage by Jimmy Ellis.
Thus did Frazier demolish Ellis, and wisely, I think, manager-trainer Angelo Dundee refused to let Ellis come out for the 5th round. There was only one fight left to be fought in this country, between Ali and Frazier. But how to get Ali back? A federal court judge took care of that, determined that his license should be restored to him. So quickly, Ali came back against Quarry and then against Bonavena. And then the denouement, March 8th, 1971. You all know what happened. I think you all know how Ali took that defeat with a humility and a graciousness perhaps not expected of him, as you saw him the Saturday after the fight on ABC's Wide World of Sports. With all the glory you've had through all the years and becoming a kind of martyr as you saw it, you wouldn't want to become just a hanger-on in the ring, would you? Fighting a bunch of other also-rans?
Well, I don't think we have no one else besides Joe Frazier that could give me a warm-up today. And I think he's the only one that could give me a good go at it. So I couldn't just hang around because there's nobody else in my class or his class.
So that's the way it's been with Muhammad Ali here on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Not really hard to understand why this reporter finds him the most memorable personality in the 10-year history of the show.
Let's try another letter.
What's this?
This time, the concerned approach. That the only song he knows? Dear Mr. Cabot, I am writing to you again, not as an agent, but as a concerned viewer, who happens to represent some fine talent like Bimbo the Chimp and Wanda the Dancing Hot Dog, who have found places on other late-night shows. Now, if there's room on your show for Fred Astaire, why isn't there room for Seymour, the human spring?
Yeah.
Shut up. Mr. Cabot, you must be having trouble getting acts. Why else would you spend a whole night with Zero Mostel or Kirk Douglas? Be honest. Has Orson Welles ever skated on an oil slick? That, Mr. Cabot, is entertainment!
Our idea of entertainment is a great host with great guests, and that's what you get on The Dick Cavett Show.
In the book, Islands in the Stream, Ernest Hemingway's hero has a pretty good one-sentence formula for professional success. Use your head, he says, and be glad to have something to do and good people to do it with. We have had on this program only the best of people to work with. People who brought Wide World 4 Emmy Awards, a Peabody, and a special award from the Television Festival in Cannes, France. I'd like the luxury right now of acknowledging a few of them. Chuck Howard, fresh from a training program at the Chase Manhattan Bank, was a program assistant when we began, the starting rung of the ladder in our business. Today, he's vice president in charge of production and personally produces NCAA football, golf, and an occasional Wide World. His creative contributions have been enormous. Jim Spence was also a program assistant when Wide World started. Now he's a vice president, too, in charge of program planning. Before that, he was coordinating producer of Wide World, selecting events, negotiating for rights, actively formatting the program, and putting it on the air each Saturday. The names that you're going to see beside me now do not represent anything like a complete list of the people who have worked on Wide World. It's actually a select list of those who have significantly contributed to the program's production and success. You know, if you were to shut yourself in a room and watch all the Wide World since 1961, 24 hours a day, you would be sitting there for 28 days. Now, that's a lot of television time, but it still doesn't represent 1/100th of the time these people have spent in loving dedication to this program. Several other names belong on that list, but you'll be seeing them in a minute as the people directly responsible for today's Wide World. We must also thank every man of the ABC engineering department who has worked with us. They have dangled from cranes, pulled cables under stadiums, carried cameras on their backs for hours on end, and generally ignored the word impossible. A word of gratitude to our wives and children who've spent too many weekends by themselves through the years. And one other person. Yes, Virginia, there really is Arun Arledge. He has been the guiding spirit of Wide World since its inception, scouting events and locations around the world before the show began, producing all of the early programs personally. He's still executive producer of Wide World, but also president of ABC Sports, responsible for the entire wide range of ABC sports programming. And so program number 491 is complete now. Duly recorded on shiny brown magnetic tape and ready for filing in the ABC videotape library. There it will stay, nestled next to its brother, the 5th anniversary show, until, with a little bit of luck, it has to move over and make room for the 15th anniversary program. I hope you'll be here for that one. Me too.
10 years ago, I boarded a plane to search in the world of sport, to see how men live side by side in conflict of every sort. I traveled to the playing fields of England's sporting clime and watched men in an Irish hurling battle, and over the wide, wide world, over the wide, wide world, I think I've seen a plan men can shake hands and understand. Over the wide, wide world, over the wide, wide world, I think I've seen a plan men can shake hands and understand.
Air travel arranged through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines, the airline of sports champions. Today's program was pre-recorded. One more thing must be said before we leave you on this Christmas Day 1971, and that is that something is missing from this holiday season for anyone interested in sports and sportsmen. Bobby Jones is gone. He died during the last week in Georgia, where he was born, where he learned to play the game of golf, and where he actually created the famous Masters golf tournament. He remains, and quite possibly will always remain, the only man ever to win the U.S. Amateur and the U.S. Open, the British Amateur and the British Open championships, all in one glorious season. Certainly all of us at ABC Sports will remember Bob Jones as long as we live. I should think from many of the things that he said during his lifetime that it would be important to Mr. Jones that he be remembered by people in this order as a gentleman and a lawyer who also just happened to be one of the great sportsmen of his time.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This has been ABC's Wide World of Sports. Brought to you by Sears Die-Hard Battery with extra starting power to start your car when most batteries won't. And by Mercury, where better ideas make better cars. It's as simple as that. Mercury makes better cars. At the sign of the cat.
Tonight, the movie of the weekend presents one of the more spectacular movies, Tribes, starring Darren McGavin and Earl Holliman. That's tonight at 8:30 on ABC.
A very wet but a very Merry Christmas to you. Winter's second storm continues to pose a threat to Southland residents. The Miami Dolphins win the longest playoff game in the history of football. Holiday fire and traffic deaths continue to mount across the nation. We'll have film reports on these and other stories next on Channel 7's Eyewitness News.
This is my new Toyota Corolla. I got it when this excise tax thing got lifted. Actually, I never even knew they taxed the excise until it got lifted. You see, what happened when that happened is that the price went down, which meant I could afford a new Toyota. Do you know what I mean?
See your nearby Toyota dealer and get your hands on a Toyota. You'll never let go.
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. stars in the FBI.
A legendary criminal breaks jail for his biggest job ever tomorrow night at 8 on Channel 7, KABC TV, Los Angeles.